Chair Stribling, if you want to wait one more minute till 9, we can start. Ryan is not here today, so I think we have the quorum now. We have 6.
Good morning. It's 9 a.m. and I'm going to call this meeting of the Planning Commission to order. First, establish that we have a quorum present. If you have a mobile phone on you, if you'd please put it on silent or vibrate to limit the distraction, we would appreciate it. Looks like we go straight into the agenda. So the commission may request for a consent agenda item to be moved to the regular agenda for presentation and public comment. Otherwise, the consent agenda will be considered in one vote. All items on the consent agenda have been recommended for approval by staff with no opposition received to date. Since some of the items on the consent agenda may require a public hearing, the commission will accept public comment on any item on the consent agenda in one public hearing. So I guess the first thing I'm going to do is ask if anyone would like to make comment on the consent agenda items. Do I need to read these in? Okay. All right, I'm going to close public comment on the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 6-0. Regular agenda, subdivision plats. Planning Commission has final authority for approval. Appeals may be directed to the City Council. Item A, first replat of Lot 1, Lot 2, Block 1, Reece Albert Subdivision, and Lot 1, Block G, Sunnyside Edition. A request for approval of the first replat of Lots 1 and 2, Block 1, Reece Albert Subdivision, and Lot 1, Block G, Sunnyside Edition, being 1.938 acres located southwest of Knickerbocker Road and Deaton Street. 2 variances from Chapter 10.3A2 of the Land Development Subdivision Ordinance to maintain a paving width of 36 feet with curb and gutter in lieu of the required 40 feet, or 36 feet with a 4-foot sidewalk for Deaton Street, an urban local street, and to maintain a paving width of 48 feet with curb and gutter in lieu of the required 50 feet for Courier Street, an urban collector street.
Good morning, Commission. Zach Rainbow, Planning and Development Services. As you mentioned, this is a replat of the Reece Albert subdivision. It's proposed to be 2 lots in a commercial zoning district. And as you mentioned, they are seeking variances from the applicability to install sidewalks in lieu of pavement width considerations. They're asking for variances on those. It's 2 lots, approximately 2 acres total. Tract 2 being the largest at 1.35 acres, 359 acres, and tract 2 being 0.579. Here's a picture of the zoning. As you can see, it's commercial on the front there where they're proposing the replat. Some pictures of the subdivision. Just some more pictures. This is for the variance request. The applicant believes the variance would not be detrimental to the public safety because Deaton Street is the same width as other streets in the surrounding areas. City staff believes that because Deaton Street connects to Knickerbocker, which is currently undergoing a TxDOT sidewalk project, that Deaton Street would also then be required to provide sidewalk as opposed to a variance. Uniqueness and to the property and the hardship, the applicant believes the conditions of Deaton Street are unique because the street is wide and already has curb and gutter on both sides. While staff agrees that road widening is not preferable, the alternate option of adding a sidewalk also meets city code without the need for granting a variance. Staff's recommendation is approval of the plat subject to 4 conditions of approval, which are listed in your staff report. Staff is also recommending denial of the variance for the two roadways. We would prefer to see a sidewalk installed in lieu of the pavement widening. Here's the recommended conditions, again, listed in the staff report. These are typical of a plat. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Do anyone have questions for the staff? Could you go back to the variance request, please?
Yes.
So the applicant is asking for full variances on, is it 2 streets or 3?
Two streets, Knickerbocker and Deaton Street. They're both, I think, 36 and 48 feet respectively.
So they're currently just a little bit under.
Just a little bit under.
What the subdivision requirements would be for those road widths.
Correct. And with Knickerbocker and TxDOT already constructing a sidewalk, staff feels that it would be great interconnectivity to provide the sidewalk on Deaton as well.
So the Knickerbocker frontage is already covered by TxDOT.
Correct.
In the work that they're doing.
Yes,
And so
but,
the only issue is Deaton Street.
well, technically, they need the variance, the widening of Knickerbocker. Staff would not require a sidewalk because TxDOT already has it in the plans to do it themselves. But technically, it is a requirement of the subdivision ordinance to expand the width of Knickerbocker.
By 2 feet.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else have questions for the staff?
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to open it up for public comment. If you wish to speak on this case, please come forward, state your name.
Good morning, Erica Carter with Carter Fentress Engineering. I am here to answer any questions. The applicant is here to speak on the case. Mr. Albert, you want to come up?
Morning, folks.
Morning.
Roger Albert, I'm a partner of Western Properties, which is requesting this variance. We've owned that property since the 70s, 60s, 70s. Been nothing but vacant tract the whole time. Now trying to develop it for commercial because commercial is moving that direction. Our office, I'm sure you were, I'm with Reece Albert. Our office is right around the corner of Foster Street, so I happen to go by that intersection daily. So if you're ever looking at that intersection, there's never any foot traffic. The vehicle traffic now goes around over to Courier to the signaled intersection. So the traffic on Deaton is very minimal. I see no reason for a sidewalk. Just because TxDOT has recently put a sidewalk in, to me, isn't a reason to require a sidewalk to come up from Deaton. You're coming from a residential subdivision that with, I guess, the 36-foot roadways. What's the purpose of a 40-foot roadway for half a block moving into a 36-foot? There's no sidewalks behind me, behind Deaton. I mean, down Deaton, across the alley. There never will be any sidewalks. So what's the purpose of a 160-foot sidewalk in that area? So therefore, I'm asking for a variance on it.
So this tract, is the stripes currently on this tract or part of it?
It is.
Okay. So you're splitting off the undeveloped portion of this tract.
That's correct.
That would be east?
East of the stripe store. Correct.
East of the stripes? Mm-hmm. And where the sidewalk would be constructed would be in an area where you've already got a stripes that's been built. Is that correct?
No, the opposite, the east side, Deaton Street.
So the east side.
Across the street from the Mexican food restaurant there.
Got it. Okay. I understand. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone have questions? Thank you.
I also wanted to request that the drainage study and any of, and if there should be a sidewalk, that it be deferred to the building permit phase instead of the plat.
Okay. Does the city have any issue with deferring the drainage study?
No, I don't think we have any issue with I'll let Mitchell address that. We also wouldn't have a problem with deferring the sidewalk till this construction as well.
Okay.
Morning Planning Commission, Mitchell Gatlin, Engineering Services. On the drainage study, normally that request would go through the city engineer anyway. I don't believe on this plat there are any lots under an acre, so I don't believe that the city engineer would have any issues with deferring that at that time.
Thank you. All right, anyone else wish to speak on this case? All right, I'm going to close public comment. Anyone wish to share their thoughts or make a motion? Is everyone familiar with this tract? There's been a lot of development along Knickerbocker. I'm a sidewalk guy, so it's, I understand Mr. Albert's point that there hadn't been a sidewalk there and there doesn't seem to be a need from the neighborhood, but we've got commercial frontage that could be new development. And I think having sidewalks to improve circulation through those sites, especially on proximity to Knickerbocker, would be good to have. So not granting or not requiring the widening of that road, but adding a sidewalk, I think would seem appropriate.
Does the Mexican food restaurant have a sidewalk on it?
I don't know.
Parking lot.
It looks like, I look at the aerial view for the package. It looks like it's either paved or,
It's a parking lot.
I believe it's paved all the way up to Knickerbocker.
yeah.
It's a parking lot.
So you have the sidewalks on Knickerbocker that go all the way down for Tech 5.
Yes, the sidewalk on the Knickerbocker frontage is already taken care of. So I guess we need to grant the variance for Knickerbocker for the width.
No, there is no requirement on
Okay.
TxDOT roadways.
Okay,
So it's just for the side street.
just for the side street. Okay,
And if you're okay requiring the sidewalk, there is no need for a variance, because the ordinance says you either build a street 40 feet wide or you build it 36 feet with a sidewalk.
Okay.
Since it's already 36, if they build the sidewalk, they meet the standard.
okay. Anyone wish to make a motion?
I'd like to see that aerial view. Can we see that, John? Can you pull up what Luke's looking at?
Maybe the only one we have.
Right there.
That'll work.
So does paving equal a sidewalk, or would it have to have a side? I mean, what if they put something in there that required parking on that side as well? Kind of like the restaurant.
Yeah, that's kind of what it looks like is on the other side of the street.
It really just depends. Normally on a new development, if they're completely coming in with a site plan and developing the site, then we would require construction of a standard sidewalk.
What's the depth of this lot? Do you guys have the approximate dimensions?
While he's looking for that, the other part of that is, in some cases, for already developed properties, we have counted existing pavement. It does have to be in good quality condition. It basically needs to be wheelchair accessible, but that's just a judgment call on a case-by-case basis. But normally the requirement is for a full sidewalk.
The depth varies, but at the smallest point, it is 134 feet deep. You can see the measurements there. Along Deaton Street, it's actually a little deeper.
It looks like 165 feet
Yeah.
What?
on the.
Yeah, on that side, yeah.
On that side,
Oh,
on
right,
the plat.
And I think the absence of pedestrian traffic in our mind in this area is not indicative. It's like you don't see cars where there's no streets. As we've seen with many of these TxDOT facilities, once they've built the sidewalks, pedestrian activity increases because people are avoiding those roads because of the lack of pedestrian infrastructure.
It's an undeveloped commercial lot. We'd require sidewalks anywhere, wouldn't we? Or would you? What's the subdivision ordinance for commercial lots in general?
Well, again, If they're
Depends on
willing
the-
to build a 40-foot wide street, then there's no sidewalk requirement. Generally, in a commercial area like this, at the site plan stage, we would probably request it anyway for a commercial area.
Okay.
So just out of curiosity, on Bryant, where the new Dollar Tree was developed, were they required to put a sidewalk down the side street? I don't know what's.
I believe they
might be
were.
Avenue X or something.
Yeah, there were one of them didn't have to, but two of them did.
There's a variance on one of them.
So over by the Walmart, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that new strip with the Dollar Tree in it.
Yep.
So.
It was a while ago, but what I remember was the one that didn't was the less traveled one. And because that one, it was on four sides, that was a lot of construction for them. So we discussed it and we determined that we would require the ones on the more traveled. So one of them didn't.
Can we go back to the city's recommendation, please?
Is that the site you're looking for, or?
I think it's a couple more forward.
There
Here we go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
I don't think everyone had enough coffee this morning. It's quiet.
Does this have to be done now, or can it be deferred to when they develop it?
No, that's, as they requested. We would be fine with the actual construction not happening until they're out there building the buildings on the site.
They've also asked that we defer the drainage study.
So, I suppose if they came back with a site plan, that included paving, let's say all the way up to the street somewhere across the way at the restaurant, they could come back and request a variance for the sidewalk, saying that it was being paved up to the street?
Not typically, no.
Okay.
Again, if it's brand-new construction, ADA standards require typically a concrete sidewalk that meets certain standards, which pavement doesn't necessarily meet, and especially as pavement deteriorates over time, then that's, again, the only times we've allowed that is where it's an already developed site. If they're going out and building new stuff, we require a standard sidewalk.
I guess my thought process on that is that we don't know what's going on the site yet, and how it's gonna be situated.
Well, but again, typically the sidewalk is within the street right-of-way with which they shouldn't be using. We have issues with this all over, but their parking and anything they're doing on their site should end at their property line. And so the whole purpose of the right-of-way that the city owns is for streets, sidewalks, utilities, and so there shouldn't be a conflict with what they're doing on their site and what's in the right-of-way.
They're gonna have to tear up part of the TxDOT sidewalk when they submit the site plan. I'm assuming TxDOT's gonna put a sidewalk all the way through this vacant parcel. Are they
I believe that's their plans,
working their
yeah.
way? So you're gonna have to rework some stuff anyway.
So Travis is sold on sidewalks. I'm not always sold on sidewalks.
I understand.
So, with the Knickerbocker, with the sidewalks, everything there, the 36-foot on Deaton Street that continues on with the rest of the blocks, I've driven around there several times. I would want to make a motion to approve with the variance, or approve as written or requested.
Okay?
Can you add deferral of the drainage study?
Yes, I'm sorry. And I would also like to add deferred to permit for the drainage and the side, well, we're not doing sidewalks, so mark that out.
The TxDOT frontage, yeah. You gonna put them in? Not the side street. That's all we're talking about. So we have a motion on the table
And a second.
and a second. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye. So it's 4-2?
4-2 approved.
4-2 to approve. All right. All right, the next one is preliminary plat of Fairway Downs. A request for approval of a preliminary plat of Fairway Downs being 76.55 acres located southeast of the intersection of Country Club and South Ratliff Roads. And a variance from Chapter 9-2B of the Land Development and Subdivision Ordinance to allow block lengths to exceed the maximum of 2,200 feet without providing stub-out streets to adjacent property.
This is not correct.
Yeah, this says Pecan and East 14th.
Oh, sorry, that's just a typo there. The plat picture you see there is actually correct. I just missed that on there.
Printout that we have with the Ratliff Road is correct.
Yeah, correct. I apologize for that. Zach Rainbow Planning and Development Services. This is a preliminary plat for Fairway Downs. It's a large tract of land, 76.55 acres. They are requesting 2 variances to allow the block lengths to exceed the maximum 2,200 feet without providing stub-outs to adjacent properties. As you can see there, there's no stub-out either to the east or west, which exceeds the block length. I believe the block length they're proposing is about 3,000, give or take. And the ordinance requires that you provide stub-outs to adjacent unplatted properties, which allows for interconnectivity, ensures good development, allows for emergency vehicle access, ingress and egress, et cetera, also for the residents of the new neighborhood. As far as the variances, staff could find no special circumstances in this case. Again, it's a raw piece of land. There are availability to redesign it and provide those stub-outs. One of the things we look at for variances is it's not a result of the applicant. And again, this property is a large vacant tract. It's blank slate. They could provide and redesign to provide the stub-outs and still comply with the subdivision ordinance. Again, some of the risk, it's potentially inadequate and it provides for problems with the effective arrangement of streets for emergency services within the subdivision and for residences. The property is a large vacant tract again. Staff could determine no non-financial hardship. Staff believes the variances are not consistent with the zoning and subdivision ordinances, the purpose statements to provide adequate interconnectivity. Staff's recommendation for the Planning Commission is to deny the preliminary plat and deny the requested variances. Staff feels the best thing would be to resubmit a redesigned that provides those stub-outs to ensure for adequate development. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Do you have is there a thoroughfare plan for this area?
So the map is not on here. There is a collector street to the south, and Ratliff, I believe, is a collector or a minor arterial as well, which is going along the western side.
Okay.
How much of this is actually in the city limits? Because that block of property is not
I believe
always.
just a tiny, tiny portion is in the city
So
limits.
most of it is going to be in the county.
This will be in the county, and if they want to access city water, they will need to annex, which we've, in preliminary discussions, that option is on the table for them.
Okay.
Thank you.
And
Anyone have
remember-
questions for the staff?
I'm sorry, remember the whole idea of the ETJ is that's the area the city is intended to grow into.
Right.
And that's why the state gives us the authority to require that developments meet city standards even though they're outside the city limits.
How wide is Ratliff Road
Narrow.
and along that?
Not sure.
I was gonna say right at 20 is what I was gonna say.
And that's a good question. Because this is a preliminary plat, we don't have to deal with street widths and dedications at this point. When they would come in with final plats for portions of this, they would have to address either widening Ratliff or asking for variances from that. So that would be something that you would see and discuss, but only once they bring in final plats for this area.
So were you asking, like, as far as, the stub out said the city's requiring, do you have an area on the map that you would be requesting the applicant to put them?
As long as they didn't create a block length issue, it'd really be up to them how they wanted to design it, but one to the east and one to the west. I think on the west, it would probably have to be further to the south due to the nature of the development to the west. But to the east, it's pretty open-ended to where they could stub it out.
And there are some logical options. There's another street that comes from the east. It doesn't go all the way through, but it could someday as that area develops. And so.
Can you go back to the aerial? Thank you. So the road to the east, is it kind of at the midpoint there?
You can see that
Essentially, yeah.
Bass Lane, I think it's called.
Okay. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, I'm going to open it up for public comment. If you wish to speak on this case, please come forward, state your name.
Good morning, Commission. Casey Pointer, owner here at Point Nor. It's kind of weird spelling of my name, but anyways, I would like to go off and discuss the variance denials here, first of all. Can we go back to the plat, please, real quick? Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely don't know how to do that. Okay, so the block length on the right, everything north of that large black line, which is almost dead center of our property, north of that is already subdivided. Everything above that is already subdivided. If you go down below that, we are definitely under the 2,200 feet. That doesn't mean we don't have to go out, but we are less than a block length there of subdividable properties to the south of that and to the east of us. On Ratliff,
I'm
everything's...
sorry, I'm confused. What are you saying?
On the east, right,
Do we have a pointer that he can point at the screen, please? Like,
if I point at that one, does it point at this one? Oh, okay,
This is gonna
cool.
be the red line,
We're going to look with you.
towards the red line.
Oh, yeah, look at this, the top.
Whoa, whoa,
Our new tech.
So,
amazing, love it.
this area over here, all above this little block out right there, that's not my property yet.
Oh, I got you. Now I
Up
see
here is
what
all
you're saying.
subdivided already, to the east of the property. Down below, right here is not subdivided below, correct? Bass Lane is subdivided. It's a private road, but it's probably 10 blocks that go down that road already, like 2-acre tracts or 1-acre tracts. They're large.
And the city just wants you to stub in to maybe connect with Bass Road in east-west? Is that what they're asking you to do?
They're asking us to stub out to the east somewhere, and we're trying not to. We do not. We're asking to not meet.
You would lose probably 2 lots? 1 lot, 2 lots?
One lot for sure.
One
to
lot?
the east.
Okay. And then what about to the west?
They're also asking us to stub to the west, but we are stubbed to the west. So, and then this side also, we're broken, right? And they mentioned in here that we are not a unique property. I definitely think we are, and maybe you see properties like this all the time. But we are broken in between the top and the bottom, and neither the top nor the bottom are 2,200 feet collectively. I definitely want to state that there will be hardship. They say there's no hardship, just inconvenience. It's north of $150,000 to add these stub outs and build them all out, including utilities. So I definitely think that constitutes a hardship. Any questions for me? Thoughts?
Can you use your pointer and show me where Bass Road is on that, please? It's all the way down.
About where that black
Approximately
line
at
is.
that black line right there.
Okay.
Is that correct, guys? If you're looking at an area?
Okay, so you have.
It's a little bit
someone
north.
else's property, all the way up. You have other properties that are not yours that they're wanting you to stub through.
Correct. Not through, but
Or
two.
two.
Bass Lane, I just don't understand that, but, I mean, it is a road currently.
So are we talking about extending utilities and
Yes.
providing
Again,
road access?
That's right, because if that property wants to further develop into
Yeah,
small lots.
we've got to extend the utilities.
You lose that connectivity.
Yes.
For both utilities. Also, long-term, picture this whole area developed. If we develop in little pods like this that don't interconnect to the rest of it, that creates issues for fire, police, all
Yes.
that sort of service.
Okay.
I also forgot to mention, during my presentation, I provided a printout of AEP's concerns.
Is that,
Yes.
You can see that diagonal line running through the property is a utility easement for power lines.
yes,
And you can see, for example, toward the southern end, at that corner, there's some lots where that easement runs through a fair amount of the lot. And so AEP was concerned how those lots are laid out across their easement. Of course, they wouldn't allow any building within those, but it could create some issues on at least 2 or 3 lots. Where are you going to put the home if you can't build within that easement?
how big are the lots on the northern section? I guess that would be the western side.
They're all plus half acre, more than half acre.
They're half acre?
Every lot on this is, it's all septic. There's no
Okay.
sewer services provided by the city out there.
Okay. And do you have right-of-way for Ratliff if it's expanded, if it's widened?
We've given right of way in our preliminary plat here,
Okay,
10 feet.
okay. Anyone have questions for the applicant? Thank you, Casey.
I would, well, I'll let y'all do your thing first, and then I want to make a request after y'all talk about it.
Why don't you go ahead and make your request now? Yeah, make it now. Speak now.
I would just like, because they recommended denial, we would like conditional approval, if we could get that.
Okay.
If everything is denied,
Okay,
we request conditional approval.
okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And let me address that. Our concern is that there's too much, typically when we recommend that you approve something with some conditions they have to meet.
Yes.
That doesn't involve, additional streets and reorienting lots. And we believe that this is too many changes for you to be able to approve with some conditions. And that's why we recommended denial. Normally, we would recommend with a list of conditions, but we think this is just too much, that they would need to back off, resubmit, meeting your conditions before approval.
I would like to know what, they're saying we could easily redesign this. I would like to know their thoughts on that.
Well, for example, just stubbing out one street, sort of midway through there to the east, that
But you
resolves
want
that
it at
issue.
Bass Lane, and I don't understand that. You told us in 2 different meetings you want us at Bass Lane.
I think what we suggested was that would make sense. If it works for your development to put it in a different place, when the properties to the east develop, they could always, reroute Bass Lane to connect into wherever you stub out. And basically, that's either fortunately or unfortunately for the way our rules are and the way development is in most cities, whoever develops first, you're stubbing out a street to undeveloped property, you're sort of defining where that next property has to connect in.
Yes.
So basically, you get to choose where it makes sense for you.
Okay.
And the next property's over, we'll just have to work with that.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So I want to clarify what this stub out means. It's adding a road that would connect east to west to this plat, and it's also extending the utilities, or is it?
Yes,
So you'd have utilities basically at the property line that's the neighbor could tie on to
Correct.
extend and develop through their site with.
that's right.
Okay.
Not thinking about this the right way, but the stub only goes a portion of the way. It's not actually going all the way. The other development would be required to stub back into that, correct?
Correct. It would just be the lot depth of one lot on that eastern edge of their property. And again, if you look at some of the other plats you guys see, we see that all the time. This is not uncommon.
Right.
For developments to stub out into the next, to keep the roads going so that once everything's developed, it's all interconnected.
Okay.
One more thing, sir.
Yes, sir.
So in our second of 3 meetings that we had with the city, we visited with utilities and they really wanted back to the east, like they're saying. We agreed basically that we would take a 12-inch main all the way down Ratliff Road to the future thoroughfare, which is at the very bottom of the property. It's not on our property, it's on the adjacent property to the south, in order to provide that utility down that thoroughfare.
Okay.
That was how we came to this
Okay.
layout here. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak on this case? If so, please come forward, state your name. All right, I'm going to close public comment. A discussion amongst us here. Anyone have any thoughts or wish to make a motion?
So the black line with the large black dots is not, that's a boundary of their property. Is that right?
There are some homes, or there's some lots, not homes, but lots, kind of at that midpoint on the east side
Yeah,
that are not owned.
so where Fairway Drive,
Oh. No, go back
yeah,
a little bit.
Go back again.
No.
if you can, I don't know if you can zoom in.
So as I understand it, oh, wrong button. Right here.
Yeah,
So
so,
that little rectangle.
so that corner on Fairway Drive,
Well, no, that corner, as I understand it, and they can correct me, they've included this on their preliminary plat because they hope to purchase that. Is that fair? So they don't currently own it, but it is part of the preliminary plat that is before you today.
Okay.
but that could be potentially, if they didn't use Bass Lane
Stub.
or whatever, could
Stub
stub
over.
out in the
Yes.
future.
That is
To-
one option, is this street, this east-west street could
Just
just
carry
be
it through.
continued to the property line. That's clearly one option. They
And maybe take it west.
Correct.
Oh, right.
So, and I can't read from here. Sorry, a little blurry, but, so the very bottom road at the end of the property that looks like it's going into the next thing, that doesn't count as a stub out?
That does.
It's
But-
still too far from this point
Okay.
to that point.
Oh,
I'll
It's
be
more
honest,
than 2,200 feet,
Yes.
which is the subdivision
Right.
maximum.
I'll be honest, that one we have less concern about,
Right. Getting to the east.
but getting to the east is the one that's a bigger concern.
Okay, so then
Well, and the other thing that I know we've kind of touched on, but and we've seen this a lot more prevalent in Lakeview, is lots that are being developed where the utilities weren't extended. And that's just, I don't think it's fair to pass that burden on to the neighbor if you don't want to extend the utilities through your site. And it just makes it more difficult down the road. It raises the cost of that undeveloped land to be developed in the future if the utilities aren't extended over to it. So I know we're talking about roads, but utilities are part of this, and I think they're an important consideration.
Okay, so if the applicant currently owns the top portion and is purchasing the bottom portion?
No,
Or
the
just
applicant,
purchasing that
They
little
own
it's just that
section?
little, that little
Just
jog,
okay.
I think.
I mean, are we able to like just defer it till phase 2 of development? Because I would assume he's gonna concentrate on the upper portion before he gets any further.
Yeah, none of this would have to be done. Again, this is a preliminary plat showing a layout for the whole property. They come back and final plat in phases, so it would only have to be done once they get to that phase. So they could save it till phase 2 or 3 or the last phase or whatever works for
Yeah.
them.
Anyone wish to make a motion?
Can you go
Yeah,
back
go
to
back
what
to-
your
Re-
the
Recommended.
departments?
So we can't deny the variances and approve the plat. Is that?
That's correct. If you deny the variances, then the plat does not conform with the ordinance.
Can we just defer the variances then? Approve the preliminary plat and
I guess.
The variance would be to not
Yeah.
put the stub out in.
Right.
Would it be beneficial to both parties, right? If we didn't make a decision today, and based on the conversations that we've all had today, could you guys take the month, sit back down a couple of times, and discuss some of the things that were brought up today and possibly come to bring us something different in August to look at, and maybe put your heads back together and see if we can clean this up a little bit? Or if we did that, does it?
Are we providing the that's under discussion. We will, if they ask for annexation into the city, we can provide water service.
Is there sewer service?
no,
No.
it's septic.
No,
There's
it
no
would be
sewer out
septic.
there. It's all septic.
I think the short answer is that we can do what you're asking.
Well, only if it's a benefit at all. If it's not,
Well,
then
we would
can-
still recommend you deny it because state law says we have to act on a plat within 30
Right.
days. I would suggest you deny it.
And bring it
but
back.
allow
You guys
them-
bring it back.
We could allow them to resubmit with no additional fees. So technically, they're starting over, but it's really just like, resubmitting a revision.
Who provides water to the rest of the places out there?
It's well water.
Well water?
Well,
Well,
All out
Or
there?
there's a water supply corporation, I forget the name.
in the county part, there's well water.
Contra rule.
Actually has CCN that we have to request permission from them to put city utilities in.
Who's that?
Say that
Miller-
again.
Millersview.
Miller's View.
Those
Okay.
supplies water from the city,
Sorry.
the areas that are in ETJ.
Okay.
And
I mean-
again, that would all be worked out prior to a final plat.
So, I
Who
mean,
provides
technically,
utilities
they-
and all that?
I forget.
So if you were to put wells on similar to Holshire Farms, would that get around the
Well, I mean, they
stub
can
outs?
go get their water.
Can't have a well and a septic on half an acre.
Oh,
We still have to come
It
to us for
would
this.
get us around the utility, but not the road necessarily.
all right.
Right.
You're the captain. What does it look like?
But it also says may and shall require. It doesn't say that they have to require us to do this. The ordinance,
Yeah.
not shall, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say.
Should. Yeah, that's the wrong word. May and should. So, yeah, there are places that says shall, but not in this instance on the 2,200-foot variance.
Okay. So
I mean,
back at it.
I kind of agree with Joe. I think that after hearing some of the discussion here, I think it would be best to table it and allow the applicant to meet with the city again to come up with a possible plan and make sure that they're both on the same page.
Okay. So we have a motion to table?
Again, I don't think you all need to act today.
If we're gonna table it, we need to deny it so they can start over.
Okay.
If that's, if, I'm not, if
It
that's what
achieves the
everybody
same
feels.
purpose, but again, under state law, if you don't act, then it's automatically approved after 30 days.
Okay, if it is denied, what is the time frame that they can come back?
Next month?
30 days.
Yeah, there's no, it's not like zoning where you have to wait 12 months or
Okay.
something like that.
Okay.
All right. Anyone want to make a motion?
Go ahead, I think you won.
I'm sorry? Yes, sir.
I'll let, do I wait for y'all to do that before we go to conditional approval, or y'all?
Yes, I think so. I mean, I don't know
Well,
how to
once-
make
once you
conditional.
Once you
deny
approval.
deny it, it's
If-
denied.
If you have any inclination to do a conditional approval, again, we would not recommend that because there's so many moving parts. If they start, if they decide, here's where we want to put a stub-out road, well, if that affects lots, and we haven't really discussed much, but AEP has some concerns with their layouts. So
Could
if you start shifting lots to address AEP's concerns, then it's enough changes that I think you would want to see it again.
I agree.
What condition are you wanting? Or do you have something in mind, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, like we put the stub outs in.
He wants conditional approval of the plat without a clear understanding of where the stub outs would go. And I think I agree with John. It makes sense for us to see it, not to. And I know it's 30 days, but I think it would really help clarify everything for us. I'd like to see it.
Could I ask real quick what AEP's concerns are? Because we have approval from them.
Looks like there's a letter here
So did
that,
you not get
I
a
don't
copy?
have that.
I didn't print out enough. We got it.
you can have this one if you'd like it. You're welcome.
It says their concern is the tracks and being able to build structures on those with the way the tracks are laid out.
Probably in that southeast
So I
corner,
think-
southwest corner.
Maybe these couple of lots here,
I think the bottom corner.
and then 2 or 3
Yeah.
lots right in there.
Yeah.
Really even, I think some of these lots, homes would have to be set back enough to be outside of that easement. That could probably work fairly easily here. I think like this lot here in particular
Yep.
is a concern of, you'd have to push the lot way back into the back corner to stay out of that easement.
Okay. Anyone wish to make a motion?
Yeah, so I move that we deny as presented. I'd like to see this thing come back. I would like to see y'all meet one or however many times it takes so we can clean this up, so we can address AEP's concerns, and possibly have them chime in with what they feel like would be beneficial to the project. So my motion is to deny.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to deny. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So 6-0.
Yeah.
Preliminary plat, Shops of Sherwood Subdivision, revised. Request for approval of preliminary plat, Shops of Sherwood Subdivision being 35.017 acres, south of Sherwood Way, west of Southland Boulevard, and the variance from Chapter 9, 3A1 of the Land Development and Subdivision Ordinance to allow a lot to not have direct abutting access to an approved, accepted, and publicly dedicated street right-of-way.
Thanks, Chair Stribling, Planning Commissioners. This is our next case today, Jeff Fisher, Principal Planner. You all had seen this last month. The applicant had come in for a future commercial shopping plaza that had a flag lot, so all the lots would connect to Sherwood Way per a policy. Due to a private covenant and easement agreement that they were working on, that site plan as part of that agreement was not identical to this plat. And due to, I guess, their timing and sequencing, I think the applicant might be here to discuss after I present. Basically, that agreement did not show one of the lots touching Sherwood Way, and they'd like to move forward with that one. So that means they need a variance. We believe that this subdivision does not comply with the subdivision ordinance now. So our recommendation in a few minutes will be to go back to the one that y'all had looked at last month, and they had tabled that to to work through this. So we'd like to go back to that original if we could. This is 35.017 acres south of Sherwood Way, west of Southland Boulevard. It's in District 6, Larry Miller, in the Bonham neighborhood. So everything you see here from last month, again, you didn't act on it because it was tabled, withdrawn. And so this is, the only change is going to be this flag is not going to be constructed. So parcel C will not have direct and abutting access to Sherwood Way. We've talked to the applicants. We understand there's a private agreement with a public easement that they would be willing to do. Probably where that flag is or something like that, that would give them direct and abutting access to Sherwood Way. Our concern and our preference is not to do that, because if that easement was ever taken away or they tried to seek action on it in the future, tried to remove it from the plat or the agreement, then it leaves that lot landlocked. And that's why we have that provision in the subdivision ordinance. We have a lot of parcels that are landlocked in San Angelo because of it. So we'll move forward for now with the drawings. So this is the revision. It's just that one area there. We believe that it conforms with a comprehensive plan. That's straightforward. It's a commercial area already, and they want to do commercial, but we don't support the variance. So there's, again, the concern of not having an assurance that the private easement will stay. There's nothing unique about these lots. The lots are larger than the zoning minimum, so there's lots of room to put in direct and abutting access and reorient the lot lines. Again, the plan that they had last month, we were in support of. There's no particular hardship. And again, approving a plat without direct and abutting access could create those issues of landlocked properties if that easement ever went away. So staff recommends denial of the preliminary plat, Shops in Sherwood, and denial of the variance from 93A1 to allow a lot to not have direct and abutting access to an approved, accepted, and publicly dedicated street right-of-way. Any questions or comments?
Anyone have questions for the staff? Can you go back to the site plan? Yep, the preliminary plat. So, do they own the property to the west?
No, they own up to, just as you see here, up to this line. So west is I believe, is a different developer.
Isn't that the?
It looks like
apartments
they've
to the
got,
west?
is there, on the west side, it
Yep.
looks like this back lot connects to Sherwood Way. Is that not the case?
Correct. So there's 6 lots total. So this really big lot here, so that connects to Sherwood, then parcel A connects to Sherwood, and then the 1, 2, and we want them renumbered. That's one of the conditions if you all did approve it. Instead of having A, B, C, just have it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's this lot here, parcel C, that doesn't connect. So the old plan had that red area, so it was kind of a snout and it would flag up. So this new plat, this is not in existence, so it's just a box that closes. So
Jeff,
that's the issue.
The one that you're stating is landlocked, does that connect to Southland then?
It does not. Now,
It goes to the Sam's parking lot.
right,
Okay.
they have a private agreement that has a common driveway that goes through. So they do, in the end, they will have a driveway that connects through this flag up here. And then they have another one that they're working out a private agreement with Sam's. So they're going to have 2 access points. It's just not, the lots themselves don't touch the street.
It really comes down to a question of, our ordinance requires direct and abutting access, is what it says.
Right.
In some cities, they do allow these kinds of things where a back lot of a shopping center can access the street through an easement. Our ordinance just doesn't allow that. They're asking for a variance to allow that, is the basic.
Pretty straightforward.
Okay, can you go, Jeff, to your recommendations? Please?
Yes. So that's our preferred outcome. The alternative and what the applicant is asking for is it would be a public easement would be shown on the plat, and then a condition would be added that that easement essentially stays in perpetuity. And so that way they would have direct and abutting access through that easement. If they came back, they could have the right to apply for a release of easement through us, and then I guess we would probably recommend denial of that, or ask them to revise their plat to show it somewhere else if that ever happened in the future. But again, it's just not our preferred option, is just have it direct and abutting.
Okay. Anyone else have questions for the staff? All right, I'm going to open it up for public comment. If you wish to speak on this case, please come forward, state your name.
Thanks, Jeff. My name is Kevin Matson. I'm with Red Sky. I'm going to go back to this. So it's not our intention to, not protect the city's interest about having a flag lot. It is our goal to not only develop the parcel C, but also to develop to the west, which, we'll come in for a replat every single time we get another tenant, and that property is either sold, but where you're showing the flag lot right there, that's the only access we're going to get off Sherwood. And so the document that we've created, this declaration, we own all 35 acres, but it will be sold off. And so we're trying to protect the interest of parcel A, parcel C, D, and B, to guarantee access over to Sherwood. We've done a couple of these master developments where we've created this private declaration. I'm wanting approval of this plat with a condition that we work with the city attorney and city staff based upon having either amending the declaration to give city more authority on coming in to deny any future changes to that interior road that feeds parcel A and D. Or we can make a notation on the plat that guarantees that that won't be shut down prior to city approval. And so our attorney has reviewed this declaration along with Brandon Brandon Dyson. And we're trying to come up with a couple of conditions so we can keep this project still on pace to get done and achieve what the city's wanting to be protected. And then our parcel C does have 3 access points over to Sam's, as well as going to have access over to Sherwood Way.
Okay.
And staff did create an alternative slide with conditions of approval if that's where you're moving towards.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Anyone have questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak on this case?
Good morning, Russell with SKG Engineering. The semantics, if you read the Code of Ordinances, direct abutting access, and that's been very challenging, but it's been fleshed out and settled in many other cities. What constitutes direct abutting access? Many lawyers, attorneys, and they know that easements from one property across a property to a public roadway, that is an encumbrance on one and a benefit and a legal right to that property. In this tract, it would be the parcel C or whatever we rename it to in the future. So we believe that the preliminary plat and any future final plat would meet the intent of direct abutting access by the creation of a future access easement, which would follow the line outlined in red, but we already have one, this property already has one because of the encumbrance on the Sam's property. So whether it's a variance or not, we don't want to flesh out and try to settle a legal question here. So if you would just grant the variance so that we know that we're approved, and realize that we'll place some verbiage, and I don't know, Jeff, if you want to pull up the conditions that allow us, the developer and the staff, with Brandon's certainly review and approval, to create some verbiage, if you will, that we put on the preliminary and the final plat for this one specific lot, that if there is ever a potential for this dedicated easement to go away, which is rarely unlikely, but it could, that then at any point in the future, if that goes away, then the property has an obligation before it goes away to replat and create a mechanism that ensures that this parcel always has that direct and abutting access. So it's of great importance to the developer to ensure that that's in place for the store, the big box retailer that's going there. It's very difficult to get some of these national chains here. They want very specific conditions. They're very particular about some of that stuff. So it's very hard to move some of those. But they feel, because they've done this in other cities, other states, that this direct and abutting access is satisfied through these easements. Thank you. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Gully. Anyone else wish to speak on this case? All right,
Jeff
I'm going
Fisher again, Principal
close
Planner.
public comment.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Okay, so just to clarify that first condition, that should be prior to, prior to plat recordation of a future final plat, because this is still at the preliminary stage. So when they go to final plat that parcel C, our fallback recommendation would be, if you are going to approve it, would be to have at least a public access easement drawn on the plan, kind of like where that flag, and it doesn't have to be the flag that they showed before, it could be somewhere else, but something where parcel C touches the right-of-way, and that's in favor of the platted lots and without reference to the private declaration. I think the problem is if that private agreement ever goes away, then there's an issue, but if they show it as a public easement, at least it's there.
I was going to say, this is going to be a recorded easement, right? It's going to be public record, so I personally don't see the issue, but I understand the city's ordinances don't align with what they're asking us to do, so. Okay. Anyone have questions or wish to make a motion?
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve with the two conditions that we're looking at.
So that first one would be prior to a final plat being recorded, and then the second one this would apply right now to prior to signatures, since the preliminary plat doesn't get recorded at the county, but it's still signed and we're basically saved with us.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
And we have a second. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve with the staff's conditions of approval. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? 6-0. Next item, preliminary plat of Southland Hills, blocks 35 through 40, has been withdrawn by the applicant. Item D, Southland Hills Addition, Section 22, a request for approval of a revised final plat, Southland Hills Addition, Section 22 being 8.751 acres southwest of South College Hills Boulevard and Valley View Boulevard.
Thanks, Chair Stribling, Planning Commissioners. Jeff Fisher again, Principal Planner. This is a revised final plat of Southland Hills, Section 22. So this month they had come in with a draft of a preliminary plat that was going to revise the one you all approved, or I should say City Council approved last year on appeal. Due to not having an extension of College Hills to the east, there was a concern of not having, similar to the last plat we had discussed, and having circulation through that development. We decided and worked with the applicant, it would be easier for them to just pull that, so that's why that last item was withdrawn. So now they're just going to come in 8.751 acres and just do a final plat for Cedar Hill Drive. And it would go, it would stop a little bit short of College Hills. That way, if they come back in on a revised preliminary plat, we can work out those issues separately. This will have a hammerhead stub out towards the east of lot 28 and 15. So this is just going to be now 31 single-family lots. They're about 55 feet wide, so it conforms with zoning, conforms with the comprehensive plan. It also conforms to the current preliminary plat that was approved last year by council, January 2021, and very close to what the old 1998 and 1994 lot configurations looked like. So we're good moving this one forward. As I said, we can work out the issues later on if they do choose to revise their preliminary plat. So this was the January 2021 approved preliminary. So you can see this is where it's going to go. It'll just fit in here. Future phases will require, we still want College Hills to go all the way down from Valley View, but again, we can look at that later on. Again, it conforms with the comprehensive plan and purpose statements. Water and sewer will be extended as required by engineering. So staff recommends approval of this plat, subject to 9 conditions in your staff report. So payment of taxes, obtaining signatures of the preliminary plat. So the one from 2021 was approved. They just hadn't got it signed yet. Constructing the sewer main, constructing the water main, water and wastewater service line connections, extending Cedar Hill Drive, and then that portion of Stone Canyon Drive. And then a drainage study shall be submitted. So the last one is fire hydrants and fire department access. That concludes staff's presentation. Any questions or comments on this one?
Anyone have questions for the staff? All right, we're going to open it up for public comment. If you wish to speak on this case, please state your name.
Good morning, Russell with SKG Engineering. First, I need to really thank staff for working with us on this one. We kind of had some last-minute adjustments to get it to where we could have something before you today to present and hopefully approve. One of the points of question, I guess, really in my mind and the developer's mind, kind of revolves around this preliminary plat that goes, the most recent version of preliminary plat. So as not to muddy the water too much, we believe that the final plat we presented today conforms with a prior preliminary plat that's been approved. And so we would like, guess, condition 2 stricken, since we are in conformance with a preliminary plat that was approved prior to this one. There's some questions, I guess, on the developers. There was 2 parties involved in this most recent version of the preliminary plat that was submitted. There's some dynamics that are kind of goofy, if you will, for lack of a better word, going on there. And so we don't know if we would be able to meet all those conditions of that preliminary plat. So
Can we get a list of the conditions that are outstanding from the staff?
I'm sorry, did you ask a question?
I did.
Yeah.
Could we get a list of the conditions that are outstanding from the preliminary plat?
Yes, but I will say this particular final plat conforms with either one, and so there is still an outstanding legal question. If you all have approved a preliminary plat, but all the details haven't been, the conditions haven't been met.
Yes.
Is it the plat, the preliminary plat they have to comply with or not? Or is it the previous plat, since this one has not been yet finalized? I think in this case, I'd be okay striking this condition 2, because as Russell said, the final plat they're submitting conforms with either one. So if they were different, then I think we would have a bigger issue here.
Okay.
But again, I'm comfortable with that in this case. So in other words, today, we don't necessarily have to answer that question. We're still kind of digging into it. But I think we can.
We're going to see a new preliminary plat.
We can kick the can down the road, basically.
There's a lot of conversations between some parties that need to occur. This at least allows them to move forward with this one.
Okay. Got it. Thank you, Mr. Gully.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak on this case?
Erica Carter. I represent the applicant, or the clients, who also have a part of this preliminary plat. And I would really just ask that, or maybe clarify that you guys are saying we don't know which preliminary plat what that's going to be, what we're using, but we're going to go ahead and final plat without knowing that?
Yeah, because again, there are really two options. One is that the 1998 preliminary
Right.
plat is the controlling plat, in which case this final plat conforms to that for
So-
just this final plat area. Or the alternative is the 2021 approved preliminary plat is the controlling one. But again, this final plat, this particular one conforms with that as well.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter which one we decide is controlling, this final plat conforms to both.
But you don't have to, at this point, state which preliminary plat.
Ideally, we could answer that, but again, because the final plat conforms with either one, I don't think it's necessary to say which one is the one they're conforming with, because they're conforming with both.
When is that going to be necessary?
I would say whenever someone comes forward with a final plat that requires one or the other to be considered the controlling one. Ideally, the two parties could work out, either do everything to finalize the one that was approved in 2021,
Right.
or if both parties could say, we both agree to withdraw that one and fall back on the 1998 one, that would work as well.
So when will we get an answer on what preliminary plat is the right,
The controlling
the controlling one?
document?
That's a good question. I think the answer is going to be that the 1998 plat is controlling
Okay,
because the conditions haven't been met
right,
from the 2021 approved plat.
okay,
Having said that, there's some complications because there is an expectation, if you're a property owner and you get a preliminary plat approved, there's some expectation that you can move forward with that. But again, you don't lock that in until it's signed
Right.
and final, so there's a limit to that.
okay.
But I know I talked in circles a little bit, but
No, I understand. And so if I can just be kept in the loop of that when it's decided?
I'm sure you will.
Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. Anyone else wish to speak on this case? All right, we're going to close public comment. Anyone wish to make a motion?
Good luck.
So I'm going to move to make a motion to approve the final plat of Cedar Hill and remove condition number 2.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve striking item 2, the city's conditions of approval. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 6-0. Related comprehensive plan amendment and rezoning. Southwest corner of Loop 306 and Foster Road, CP 2105. Southwest corner of Loop 306, Foster Road. Request for approval of an amendment to the comprehensive plan, changing certain lands from neighborhood center and transitional future land use to the commercial future land use, being approximately 6.287 acres, located at the southwest corner of Loop 306 and Foster Road.
Thanks, Chair Stribling. Planning Commissioners, our next case today is a comprehensive plan and a rezoning for the two properties you see on the screen. Together, they're 6.287 acres at 306 and Foster. This is Tommy Hebert's District Number 1 in the Country Club neighborhood. Future land use is mostly neighborhood center. There's a small triangle you can see on the corner that's transitional. So they want to change all that to commercial, and that'll allow them to rezone to CG. The neighborhood center only allows a rezoning up to CN, and that's has some limitations. So the CG, being so close to the highway, would give them a little bit more opportunities for commercial development in the future. Because their lots were so big, there were only 3 adjacent property owners. There were no responses. Because the sign was in a major area on 306, we had a lot of phone calls about it, but just, again, asking for information, neither for or against. So this is looking south at the subject properties. As you go west, which is to the right on that first picture, that's the Old Stone subdivision that was recently annexed in. So this is going to be east of that at the corner of Foster and Loop 306. Staff recommends approval. I'll go over this. It's pretty straightforward, this case. The commercial designation is compatible, given its frontage on Loop 306 and Foster Road, which is an arterial. Staff has communicated to the applicant. They're going to need to plat these properties, and when they do, they're going to need to extend a sewer line, work out the sewer issues, so they're aware of that. And again, that's not going to affect the rezoning, but it's more of a note for them. It's compatible with the surrounding area. This area is pretty underserviced for commercial, so there's some housing going on. You've got the transportation office for the county, and there's a few other things, but generally there's not really a lot of commercial, so having that on a busy intersection like that will hopefully service those homes as they go in. The properties have remained vacant since 1954. We went back over the aerials. There's no adverse effects on the environment. Again, the commercial development will service the surrounding area, and there's good frontage on 306. Staff recommends approval of the amendment to the City of San Angelo Comprehensive Plan, changing from transitional and neighborhood to commercial, and approval of the rezoning from light manufacturing and single-family residential to the general commercial district. Any questions or comments?
You have questions for the staff? All right. Thank you, Mr. Fisher. We're going to open it up for public comment. If you wish to speak on this case, please come forward, state your name.
I don't believe the applicant's here today. Oh, he is, okay.
All right, we're going to close public comment.
I didn't see him.
Anyone have questions for the staff or wish to make a motion?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 6-0. Z21-08, southwest corner of Loop 306 and Foster Road. Is this the same? We did these at the same time, right?
I guess that's up to y'all, but they are two different properties, two different cases.
Okay, so I'll read this one in. Z2108, southwest corner of Loop 306 and Foster Road. Request for approval of rezoning from the light manufacturing, single-family residential zoning districts to the general commercial zoning district, being approximately 6.287 acres located at southwest corner of Loop 306 and Foster Road.
Zach Rainbow, Planning and Development Services. As you mentioned, this is CU 2110.
Is this the wrong
Wait,
one?
yeah, this is part of the other case, I think, Zach.
Z2108.
Oh, wait. Do you have 08?
Z2108. It's the same case, CP 2105 and Z2108.
And that's the ones we just approved.
Yes.
Okay.
We approved both of them.
Correct, in one motion, yep.
But it wasn't read in.
So I've read in Z2108. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So it is 6-0 to approve Z2108 with CP 2105. Now, conditional uses. Planning Commission has final authority for approval. Appeals may be directed to the City Council. CU 21-10, 3302 Edgewood Drive. Request for approval of a conditional use to allow a short-term rental in a single-family residential zoning district located at 3302 Edgemont Drive.
Okay.
Edgemont or Edgewood?
Edgewood.
Edgewood. I'm going to change this to Edgewood.
Ours says Edgewood.
Chair Stribling, I sent out that revision on Friday, so my
Perfect.
apologies if you
That's
didn't
okay.
get the.
I
Yes,
had
sir.
an old copy. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Zach Rainbow, we'll start this again. CU 21-10, 3302 Edgewood Drive. A request for a short-term rental in residential single-family. These approvals are good for a year. They have to come back and seek reapproval after a year, and then 2 years after that. It's adjacent to Goodfellow Air Force Base, as you see to the right of your screen there. District 1, Tommy Hebert, and it is in the Glenmore neighborhood. Again, single-family residential. Staff believes there's a demonstrated community need for short-term rentals in the established neighborhoods, particularly next to the Air Force Base, and the need to provide additional housing for the members. Here's some pictures of the home. The short-term rental will take place not in a secondary building at all. It'll happen in the main residence, as you can see there. We sent out 15 notices. We did receive one back this weekend. I provided you with a copy of the email. Multiple concerns listed in there. This was reviewed pursuant to Section 208 of the zoning ordinances, and listed here are the criteria we review it by. They have met all of the required criteria. Staff is recommending approval. The request to approve a conditional use for short-term rental, subject to the following 6 conditions, which are listed in your staff report. These are typical that are required in order to operate a short-term rental. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have questions for the staff? Thank you, Zach.
Thank you.
I do have one question, Zach.
Oh, Zach, we got a question.
Okay, so in this letter of opposition, it goes back into talking about the proximity to the Air Force Base. Is there anything that, and the Air Base has people that go around the perimeter 24/7?
Correct. And from my previous experience from Abilene, if they have an issue close to the base, they typically respond.
Right.
And previous members
Yes,
of
they do.
staff are now the base planner, so
Yeah.
we would have heard back if there was a concern.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Zach. Okay, I'm going to open it up for public comment. If you wish to speak on this case, please come forward and state your name.
Good morning, Charles Hagan. I live just down the street from this property, and I got 2 small children, and that is my greatest concern. We're going to turn this into a house that's going to have people rotating out like a hotel. We got plenty of hotels in town. You don't need to disrupt my community, my residency, me, my neighbors, all of our children. They play in the streets. They're monitored, but you're going to put unknown people in there on a rotational basis. You know, if it was a long-term rental, we can go meet them. We can go influence them. They can influence us. We can talk to them. We can get to know them. We can know whether we're comfortable with them or not. Short-term rental, we don't get that opportunity. We don't know who's in that house. Are they in the sex offenders list? Do they have a criminal history? What are you doing to my community, my family? I bought next to Goodfellow Air Force Base because I'm a retired military. Nothing's more important than security. My family's security, my neighbor's security. We're talking about going to our neighbor's quinceañera. Those people are important to me. This rotational people, it's a negative impact. What's it going to do to my property values? We're going to have a hotel rotation out there? You're going to reduce my property value? I certainly hope if you approve this, I certainly hope you reduce my property taxes. But I bet that won't happen. So I'm very opposed. And every neighbor I've talked to, they're opposed. And I'm not sure which letter or who you got it from. But I know that there are rental houses out there. The majority of the time, they're military people that rotate in and out of there. We can coordinate with them. We collaborate with them. We know who they are. But I'm definitely opposed to the short-term rental in this housing area. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Pretty short, can't really. I am the owner of the house, and I don't know if it matters, but that was the wrong picture that was up there of the property.
Ma'am, can you state your name, please?
Tiffany Brannon.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. There's actually, as far as the security goes, we've already placed 3 cameras there. Everybody has to be approved that would come through the house. There's a huge need for military. My husband is actually active duty military, which is why we felt that this was a very big need for the community. I deal with a lot of clients that come in and they're looking for rentals. The rentals are extremely expensive here in town. Military can't afford that. So what we wanted to do is create a place. Goodfellow, I don't know if you guys know much about it. It is more of a college campus type situation. It is where they come and do basic training, or not basic training, for their job. They come in and do training. So they're here for 6 months or less. There's not very many 6 months or less rentals, let alone anything that is going to be furnished. We are giving them a furnished place to live, to bring their families. A lot of times they are bringing small children. We would, our goal is to have, families 6 or less in there, small children. It's a good school district. It's a great place for a family to live and feel safe. That's the purpose of why we felt that this house was going to be great for them. I definitely understand your concern. We've talked to a lot of the neighbors. I've actually sold a lot of houses in that neighborhood to military. We really want just military to be there. But again, if the need is there, we're just here to help somebody. So I don't know if you have any questions.
So Tiffany, on yours, what you're wanting to do then is not just like a weekend or whatever. You're wanting to find families that would be there for 6 months.
6 months or less, it depends. So
Or
on
up to
military
6
orders,
months. Correct.
people come, a lot of families are coming and they're trying to live in base housing. Base housing is very limited. There is very, very few houses available for the amount of military coming in, which is why a lot of people are being forced to buy when they really can't afford it. So yeah, what we're wanting to do is give them, a lot of their orders are 6 months or less. It could be 2 months, it could be 4 months. Some single airmen are coming in for 2 weeks. So again, to put a number on exactly what that time frame would be very hard, but it is considered a short-term rental. But yeah, that would be our goal.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Thank you, Tiffany.
Again, we are supportive, but I'll just point out that under our ordinance, only 30 days or less would be considered a short-term rental.
Right.
So, if your interest was to limit it, not allowing shorter term than 30 days, but allowing longer term, then that would be allowed without this approval.
Okay. Anyone else wish to speak on this case? If so, please come forward. All right, I'm going to close public comment. Anyone wish to share their thoughts or make a motion?
Yeah, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So 6-0. CU 21-11-1716 Volney Street. Request for approval of conditional use to allow short-term rental in the office commercial zoning district located at 1716 Volney Street.
I apologize for getting the pictures wrong in the last presentation. This is, again, a short-term rental, CU 21-11-1716 Volney Street. It's 0.17 acres, meets all the parking requirements. District 3, Harry Thomas, and it's located in the Reagan neighborhood. It's two-family residential. Again, there's a demonstrated community need, staff feels, for short-term rentals in established neighborhoods. This is intended, per the application, to maintain the character of the neighborhood. Pictures of the home. I swapped them on the last one. I apologize. 15 notices mailed out. We did not receive any returned. Again, here's the criteria with which we review the request. It meets all of those, and staff is recommending approval. Again, with the following 6 conditions that are listed in your staff report. These are required every time with short-term rental applications. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Does anyone have questions for the staff? Thank you, Zach. I'm going to open it up for public comment. If you wish to speak on this case, please come forward, state your name. I'm going to close public comment. I'm looking at this site here, at it's showing that this is office commercial zoning, and you had two-family on the site map.
Again, sorry. It's just an oversight on my part.
Okay,
It's
so.
It's two-family residential.
It's two-family?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
I'm going to make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 6-0. Director's report.
I just wanted to mention a couple things. As you, hopefully you know, we have an every other month meeting we call the Development Task Force, where we invite the development community in. We present ideas, we listen to their ideas. That meeting is this week on Wednesday. So anyone out there listening, just wanted them to know that that's coming up. But two things we're going to be having on that agenda that'll end up coming to you all. One, you may remember a few months ago, we brought a temporary fix to the sign ordinance because of a Supreme Court ruling. But the council gave us till the end of the year to bring back kind of a more permanent fix and look at some other issues. And so we'll be kicking off that discussion with the Development Task Force at this meeting on Wednesday. And then at some point between now and the end of the year, more revisions to the sign ordinance will be coming to you all. You may recall the basic distinction there was the court said we can't treat signs differently based on what's the content of the sign. So that kind of threw a wrench in our distinction of on-premise and off-premise signs.
Yes.
And so that's the primary thrust of this, but we're looking at cleanup of a couple of other things in the sign ordinance as well. The other one is the landscaping ordinance. We've been asked by council members to take a look at a landscaping ordinance. Right now, we don't have one, but we do require landscaping for some development, sometimes through a planned development district. Developments over a certain size trigger what we call an urban design review, which also allows us to place some landscaping conditions on. I think one of the issues is it's not real. I think we try to be consistent while also being flexible. I think part of the idea is establishing a landscaping ordinance to make it more clear to the development community what's required in terms of landscaping and new development, so it kind of gives that predictability, basically. So again, we'll be kicking off that discussion and looking for input on what kinds of things we'd like to see in a landscaping ordinance as we bring that forward.
What time and where?
It'll be right here in this room, East Mezzanine at City Hall, and I believe that starts at 9, if I remember correctly, 9 o'clock on Wednesday.
Okay. Future meeting agenda and announcements. The next regular meeting of the Planning Commission is tentatively scheduled to begin at 9 a.m. Monday, August 16th. Adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 6-0.
Thank you all. 10:32.